I left on my trip to Mexico on Wednesday, May 9th, long after Easter, a huge holiday in Mexico, and before the end of the school year, so that the destinations in between would not be crowded. I equipped my moto with new brakes, fresh oil, a Givy trunk, and enough socks and underwear to last 2 weeks. My first stop was to have lunch with Jaylene and to say goodbye. Heading south from San Jose to Los Angeles, I cut over to the Pacific coast to Castroville, home of the giant artichoke, and then south through Monterey. 100 miles of Big Sur awaited me, wonderful motorcycling road, especially midweek, without the endless stream of motorhomes. The cool temperatures and fog were welcome, as I would be yearning for some later in my trip. I visited with Dan Balf, who lives in Cambria at the southern end of the Big Sur. I stopped at the historic Avila Hot Springs RV Resort for a soak in their hot mineral water pool. A bit further south, I camped at Pismo Beach. Thursday morning, I escaped the fog south of Santa Barbara, and at Ventura turned inland. I headed back towards the coast to drive the Ridge Road east to the Pacific Ocean. 30 years ago, I was riding my 1965 BMW R69S on Mulholland Drive, and the crankshaft broke. The Sepulveda Adobe provided shelter for the bike as I hitchhiked home to fetch my truck to retrieve it. This part of Malibu Creek State Park remains today as it was then. Coming into Los Angeles, where my nephews live, I had dinner with Tom and his wife Beth in Newport Beach. I met their son, Sawyer Lee, for the first time. Riding down the Pacific Coast Highway to Laguna Beach, I then headed up Laguna Canyon Road to meet Matt at the Canyon Club. There I discovered that the radiator hose on my bike had sprung a leak. I disassembled the windshield and fairing and removed the hose. Matt gave me a ride to my hotel in Santa Ana. Friday morning I got a hose and antifreeze. Matt gave me a ride back to the Canyon Club. On my second try, this is a long story, I completed the repair and got back on the road. Heading out on the Ortega Highway to Lake Elsinore, then dinner in Hemet, up and over the Pines to Palms Highway through Little Paradise and Pinyon Crest to Palm Desert, south to Indio and further to the Salton Sea, where I camped out that night. I was up early as it was promising to be a hot day, riding out over the Imperial Sand Dunes in southeast to Yuma, Arizona, where I stopped for an early lunch at Lutz Casino. From Yuma and San Luis, Rio Colorado, I drove along the border on the Mexican side. At Sonorita, I turned south and rode 100 kilometers to get to Puerto Penasco, also known as Rocky Point, in the Sea of Cortez coast of Arizona. I was advised by a very nice young man at the biological park north of there to stay at the Vina del Mar, and I got the last available room that Saturday night. It was a fabulous room on the Sea of Cortez and at the end of the seaside Malecon or boardwalk. I don't eat a lot of fish, but for the next few days I ate a lot of shrimp and flounder. I stayed in Puerto Penasco Saturday and Sunday, going to visit the sandy beach. I rode down to Mayan Resorts, where they are planning to turn the coastal desert into an oasis. For more information, you can look at MayanResorts.com. On the other end of the scale of prosperity is El Desemboque, a rural fishing village with no pavement, central plaza, or harbor. Getting to Bahia de Kino, just down the coast, my motorcycle could not handle the dirt road route, so it was back out to Caborca and Santa Ana at the crossroads of Highway 2 and 15. Monday I woke up in Santa Ana, Mexico, and hit the searing Sonoran Desert Road south to Hermosillo, a pretty big city, home to a Ford assembly plant. 100 kilometers to the west is Bahia de Kino. I visited here 5 years ago when heading home from my motorcycle trip to Central America. It left such a nice impression on me then, I made it my destination for this trip. I arrived at the Islandia RV Park, and it hasn't changed. Located in Quino Viejo and right on the Sea of Cortez. There are some other campers and motorhomes, trailers, and a few cabins, too. Camping is secure and reasonably priced. Up the road a couple of kilometers is Kino Nuevo, expensive beachfront houses with tall lock fences. The big news in Kino Nuevo is Kino Estates, a gated community where lots start at $50,000 and up to $300,000 with nice views of Tiburon Island. Friday morning, after spending 3 nights in Kino, it was time to leave. These two gals are part of the family that owns the park, and they wanted to take photos when I left. Traveling south towards Guaymas was a very nice part of San Carlos, and the Hotel Playa de Cortez, built during the railroad era. The southbound rush hour traffic sent me scurrying back north. From Hermosillo I headed east past Ures and took Highway 14 east and Highway 118 north towards Kearney. There were tons of military guys out on patrol, carrying AK-47s and pistols too. I asked to take a picture but was told prohibo because they were after narcos. This friendly cop let me take his picture. I was on the road past dark, but it was a nice ride. I stopped at a hot dog stand and met some friendly folks and decided to stay Friday night in Bahia de Kino. Heading north along Rio Sonora Trail, this was still desert, very much so. Highway 118 parallels the Sonora River. The first 100 kilometers I couldn't even see the river. Then there was a small stream. Further north I crossed the river a total of 4 times. At Kearney there was a full regiment of military with a helicopter. Just my luck, a few days before, drug smugglers killed 4 police, fled into the mountains, and shot it out with the Mexican federal authorities in an ensuing day-long battle. I crossed the border Sunday afternoon at Naco, Arizona, and got my first real cup of coffee in a week in the copper mining town of Bisbee. Riding through some beautiful canyon country, I arrived at Benson and made my way north of Tucson to Catalina State Park, where I camped Saturday night. Sunday, I drove north to Winkleman and checked out the Gila River. Next stop, Kearney, Arizona. Kearney is a cute town in the midst of big open-pit copper mines. Then I went into Phoenix, Arizona to visit my college roommate, Johan Harmon, and his girlfriend, Bonnie. Monday I was done with desert, heading north to Kingman, Arizona, then west to the lovely Colorado River at Laughlin, Nevada. I made a beeline across the Mojave Desert to the San Joaquin Valley. I spent the night in relative coolness at an air-conditioned hotel in Bakersfield. Tuesday I headed north towards Porterville and the foothills west of Sequoia National Park. I stopped in Visalia to visit my buddy Carson Frakes and his family. Mom Mary, Dad Wes, his sister Sydney, and of course, the star of the show, Carson. I spent one last night camping at Bass Lake, south of Yosemite. Coming back through Merced, I met Joanne and Dennis Bones at their favorite restaurant, In-N-Out Burger. One last stop in the Central Valley to revisit a vacation home we stayed at when we went to the Los Banos Delight Square Dance Festival. And that just about wraps up the 15 days and almost 4,000 miles I spent motorcycling down to Mexico and back.